everyone in the MindBody community. I'm Dr. Kim Duramo, and we are here today with MindBody TV, and I'm also going to be inviting people from Instagram, so hang on. Okay. All right, we're live on Instagram as well. So I'm Dr. Kim Duramo, and I'm a mind-body physician. I was previously in an ER, a conventional ER practice, and being super energy sensitive, very intuitive, have really completely evolved my practice and my life and my whole way of doing medicine to a new way. So I want to greet everyone who's here live, everyone who's coming in on Instagram, and hello to everybody who's in the MindBody community and Facebook. I am going to be sharing today about, can you really have your cake and eat it too? And I'm talking about this because so many people who are dealing with a chronic illness don't realize how much they're actually compromising themselves, making choices that aren't really what's best for them. And that directly, in fact, impacts what's going on in our body, impacts what's going on with healing, disease, pain, all kinds of things we're doing. And so this pertains to your work. If you're in work that you really don't love or doesn't feel really alive for you, but you feel like, well, I can't have it all. Aren't I asking too much? Or you're in a lot of pain, but you've been in pain so long, you're like, I don't even think I can ever get better. This is just what I have to deal with. And so you compromise or you settle. I talk a lot in my work about acceptance and how this is a major path to release resistance and allow healing to happen. But settling and compromise are not the same thing as acceptance. So a lot of times when people hear me, they'll think, oh, I'm just supposed to accept this, so that means I have to deal with it the rest of my life and I shouldn't try to get better. And that is not at all what that means. But settling and compromise is actually exactly what that means, because a lot of people think they can't have it all. They can't have their cake and eat it too. It's just too much to ask. So if you find yourself in relationships or work or whatever situations in your life with your body that you feel like, well, I can't really have it all, so I better do it this way, and you continue to kind of stay on a path that you know isn't really working for you, this is what we're going to be talking about today. So hi, everybody who's here in Instagram, and hello, everyone who is listening to the recording as well, because we will post this in YouTube, and in the MindBody community, we always post these in Facebook. So I would like to hear from you. Are there ways you've bought and sold to yourself the idea you can't really have it all? Are there struggles you're dealing with that are so intense that you kind of have this idea like, well, isn't this just part of life? And could this actually be different? I would love to hear what's coming up for you that you've been dealing with. We talked about some things last week that kind of hit on this when we talked about, what was our topic around? It was really about our stories. Like, what's the story you're telling yourself? So it kind of ties into this. The ways I bought and sold to myself the idea that I can't really have it all, it's just another story. So if you're ready to get out of compromise and receive what is really in store for you with your health, with money, with relationships, with every aspect of your life, hey, we are all awakening right now, and that's what's happening. So I want to first look at, hey, Katie and Terry, Crystal, Rachel. Randy says, the timing of this is perfect as usual. I've worked nights and weekends in addition to my animal clients, because I know you're reading animals, for 7 years. Then I just recently lost that second job, as I've mentioned, shortly before my boyfriend left me, in the position now of being unable to pay my rent. And I have to find something this week. Okay, so let's just look at that. I have to find something this week. So we put a lot of pressure on us to decide, like, this has to happen this way, this has to happen that way. Maybe is there more possible? The only options I'm seeing at the moment would be another low-paying job similar to the one I had. So why not celebrate the fact that that fell away, and like something even higher is going to come in for you? And I'm going to read the rest of this comment in a second. My husband was really realizing he's ready to welcome way more expansion into his life. He's creating a new business. He's doing things really differently. And he thought, I know I could really use to receive more energy around that. And what he did, which might not seem like it's totally related, but he emptied out all of these closets that were filled with like old ski equipment or old clothing or gear or stuff that he really liked, but he's like, I'm not really using this. Let's recycle this and cycle the energy, get that energy moving. So he took like 4 huge bags of stuff and a ton of equipment, skis, whatever, and dropped it all off at our local exchange. And then he was so encouraged by this because they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. You have no idea, like this is gonna fly off the shelves. And you know, they give you like a check because it's like a profit share, but it's supporting this local business that we love. And he's like gonna get some money back from the stuff that he really valued, but he's not really using. And someone else is gonna get to use it. So they were so enthusiastic about it. He came home and he did it again. Went through more closets, got rid of more stuff, brought it down to the exchange. Now, this is just one way of out with the old and with the new. And he understands the principle of that. You know, wherever frequency he was at when he got that stuff, he is definitely at a much higher frequency of consciousness now. And whenever we release anything, whether it's relationships that we're like, why am I doing this? Or why do I keep going to that group thing that I'm not really resonating with it? We let something go on our schedule. We let something go physically, or some people might do this with food and diet. You know, like that whole concept of before Easter is a period of time where you like don't eat certain foods because you're inviting your body to like release old ways of being and become, I don't know the specifics, I'm sorry, of what it's actually about, but it's like, I'm going to forego, you know, drinking alcohol or eating chocolate as a way to like welcome something in a higher way of being more present. Anyway, you're at a higher frequency than where you were when you received that job. And so if you were to let that go, which has already happened for you, which is a major bonus, what might you be able to welcome in from the space that you're at now? And it doesn't have to be like a conscious thing that you're like, well, here's this job and I know I want that job. It actually could just be residing in the frequency of, yeah, I had this low paying job because I thought that was the only thing available to me. What might be possible now? Or if you do go and get, you know, another job that's like, I really don't see that happening though, that it's like a lateral move here. Maybe it's part-time instead of full-time, so you can allow, you know, that time for developing something else or spending time doing something else you really love. Either way, it's got to be something that is more expansive than having just had everything stay exactly as it was. Life doesn't just, like you're saying, my boyfriend left me and then I got fired from my job. Nothing is actually happening to us, which is like another story. Your higher self is orchestrating everything that's going on to some degree. You are co-creating it. Even if it doesn't look like the thing you would want, you're actually on some level inviting that in. So would you be willing to see, whoa, how might this be the best opportunity I could ever have to have my cake and eat it too, have things even more awesome in my life than I'd ever imagined. She says, the thought of doing that kind of thing again feels so heavy and exhausting. It makes me want to sob. So instead of lamenting and staying in that energy of like, oh, I got to do this thing again, it really doesn't feel good. Honor that your body knows, like, no, that's because it's not what's right for you. You don't need to spend time lamenting that or, oh God, it's so exhausting. Actually shift your frequency and spend some time on, whoa, what might be possible now? Whoa, now I'm available to something that's even more expansive, or just, whoa, I wonder what it would take. Like stay in curiosity for something even more expansive to come into my life. So asking those questions, like, what would it take for this to be the best thing that ever happened to me? I had an experience many, many years back where, yeah, it was like my lover left me. I've talked about this before. It was one of the most devastating periods of my life. I can't even describe how heartbroken and disappointed I was. And I was more conscious than I had been any time prior to that. And I said to myself on some level, like, this excruciating pain I'm in has to be making space for something bigger. And what if I let go of that? And what if I let go of the idea that this is not the right thing? Because I thought this shouldn't be happening. I must have done something wrong. And I said, how could this be the best thing that ever happened? And I immediately felt the greatest sense of expansion I had ever felt in my life. I was aware of what it was making space for. I was aware of all the ways that that relationship actually wasn't a perfect total fit for me. And I was aware of all the ways I really was asking for my life to be beyond what I had known, to be more expansive, to be more filled with love, to have more space for me to be who I am, and that relationship didn't have that. So I was willing to, even though it was painful, be in the possibility. Okay, she says, I think it was a powerful declaration of me stepping into my true expression. So I have the awareness, all of this is falling apart and leading to what I've been asking for. But how can I anchor more fully into that when the only options I see feel so limited and hopeless? Okay, this is a really great point I wanted to share in this broadcast. We want to actually shift between paying attention to what we see, which is really just a construct of the perspective we are currently residing in, and what we know, which comes from the heart. If you can go into the knowing, and this is that same truth lie exercise I think I talked about last week. The knowing is there something higher here for me? Is this actually creating space for more? And feel how that resonates in your system. What does it feel like? Does it feel like, oh my gosh, yeah, maybe? And then go to the opposite. No, I'm just gonna have to make a lateral move and go find some low-paying job and do this all over again, but start at the beginning, so it's even worse off, and this just totally sucks, and life is bad, and I'll never make it. And it doesn't, I don't know if that's how you would voice that alternative perspective, but feel how that makes you feel. And it's just one question, contracted or expanded. Which makes you feel more expanded? Which ones makes you feel more contracted? Your sensory body, your receptive body has the ability to dictate truth versus lie. And it will always feel contracted and awful and just make you want to cry when you buy into a lie. All right, Nicole says, this is interesting because I was just telling someone how I feel like I've always had to compromise, sacrifice, etc. And it's tiring and I'm over it. You're over it, but you've been still buying into it. I'm so ready for vibrant health and to be able to speak my and live my truth and just be free. And that comes back to the same thing, like what you can see from where you're standing right now is not all of what's available to you right now. So we tend to think that what we can see, touch, taste, and feel is like, that's all there is. That's all I got. That's all that's possible. And so because we understand brain science and the science between like the receptivity of the neurons around the heart, we have a huge awareness of how the brain is neuroplastic and can change and open to way more awareness, to way more seeing way more possibility. And that actually, it's crazy how morphable our brain is. Like our brain can actually change. And so what we see as possible changes. So just because it's what you see, touch, taste, and feel and what you think doesn't actually mean anything because it can change right away. The way we change that most quickly is to come into bringing our focus of attention to the space around our heart. Simply put, what this does is activates the input coming in these sensory neurites. And these sensory neurites, the receptors around the heart, will register information and awareness that you don't even see or maybe understand yet. Such as, what would it take for me to receive an even bigger possibility than what has fallen away? What would it take for me to receive abundant health, even though everyone I've gone to has told me it's hopeless? What would it take for me to experience something beyond all of this, even though I've had these conclusions and judgments in the past? This receptivity can actually register new information. New information comes from the unknown, not the known. Your mind already knows everything you have ever learned and everything you haven't learned, but it doesn't have the ability to register what you don't know that you don't know. So there's like the stuff I know, the stuff I don't know. Right now I'm learning Spanish, so I don't actually know how to speak Spanish fluently. But like, I know that it's all part of the realm of what I currently understand. And so how do I access possibilities that go beyond what I could possibly understand? Like, what would it take for me to find my ideal lover and have an amazing life and an amazing relationship? And way back when, I think it was like 10 years ago, that was the question that I started to ask. And unquestioningly, that's the life. It was only 5 months later, I met my soulmate, my partner, my husband, who is a match for me in ways that no one has ever been. And so it made all those things that seem like disastrous catastrophes be a gift. Okay, so you've got to be willing to shift, and being gentle, loving, and tender with yourself is a major key. Or I don't know if we have any comments here in Instagram because they've been flying by, but thank you for everybody being here. I'm also looking in the comments there. Okay, hi Ida. Stephanie, I have 6 to 10 bags to get rid of and they're going out tomorrow. It was interesting because his, this whole catharsis totally coincided with something that was going on for me and me stepping into myself more fully. So it was pretty cool that that happened. He'd been talking about cleaning the stuff out, but the actual day it went out was like completely coinciding with, hey Lorraine, thank you, with what I was going through. Eva says, yay, that's feng shui. Out with what doesn't serve you to make space for new energy. Crystal, I completely get it. Katrina, yeah, a couple of years ago, I just reached a place where I thought I always wanted to be, a location, job, adventure, everything, to the level where I got stressed. Oh my God, it's too good to be true. It cannot be happening to me. And I crashed and got sick, and it all had to go almost overnight. Fascinating. This is a great example of, yeah, where you're buying into this idea, like, it's not okay for me to have it all. And it might be in your lineage patterns. I'm currently writing my 2nd book, and I think it's coming out awesome. But there's a whole piece in it about studies that we have done showing how our DNA carries these old lineage patterns of stress and fear and trauma that hasn't even happened in our lifetime. So it's like, why do I have this lack mentality? Or why don't I trust men? Or why do I shut down my sexuality? Just subconscious program. It can be in your DNA. And if there's this pattern in your lineage somewhere where it's like, I can't have it all. That can be for someone else, but that's not for me. Or even we do this thing where we judge this other person who is living it. Like, I know, I'm not going to get into specifics, but people in my life who've been like, oh, that person's mafioso. If it's like a really wealthy person, they just automatically assume that that person is bad and dirty and up to no good because they have wealth. So if you've got it somewhere in your lineage, and it's so easy to clear this, you can talk to your system, get yourself in a relaxed state. It's okay to let go of this pattern and to let myself have abundance. It's okay for me to release this. Now, it will feel scary. Fear will come up. But that doesn't mean you can't breathe through it and let yourself completely go forward anyway. All right. Michelle, hello from Pearland, Texas. Woohoo! Katie says, I've been asking questions to shift my perspective on the way I view illness, etc. As I think I've finally felt the way I've been making judgments and had so many strong conclusions. I've seen the light and I'm ready to change. I love this topic. It's making me buzz. Awesome. So this is a big thing that comes up where the body will shut down if you've already decided, like, no, I can't have it. You're starting up a new business. In the Awakened Practitioner Collaborative, which I have a group, if there are practitioners, that's a group available to join. There is one practitioner who realized, like, wow, I'm consciously ready to step into this, but there are all these old little patterns I've got to unplug from, because as soon, she left her job, freed herself up, was ready to move forward, and then she'd start getting these like sick symptoms and physical symptoms where she'd feel sluggish and tired and couldn't even speak clearly. And it was like, oh yeah, clear that. Don't buy into it as like, well, guess you can't really have it all. Just see that you've got to repattern what's happening and meet those needs you have to let your system know, yeah, it really is safe for me to go out and share and be seen in this new expansive thing I'm doing as a practitioner. So even the weird little illnesses that can come up, and there's people all the time who have come into my life, either to like work with our family and like help clean the house, or work with me, because I do see some private clients online, and like as soon as they make that choice, all kinds of stuff will come up in their field, like, oh my God, my kid had this happen and I couldn't come because of da 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 da, and like chaos, or physical symptoms will come up, and it's a matter of like, are you really ready to step into this? Are you really ready to expand into something new? Are you really ready to choose what you're asking for? And so instead of going into doubt, go into clarity. Melanie says, I think a lot of my issues are around, it's not safe to shine as brilliantly as I can. I've looked at this many times, but I still have some of this running. Good, yet it's taken me years, and it's still a part of my process of letting myself be fully seen, letting more parts of me come forward, letting more of me come through and be incorporated into my life. Hello, everybody who's joining on Instagram. Wendy says, when asking through the heart, what possibilities here may be good for a health condition? Will guidance that is truth for me feel expansive and easy? Well, yeah, and it's not always specific, like, how do I get rid of this cancer? You want to actually move into the space of what that would mean. So the freedom and the love, joy, serenity, the abundance that your life would be if you did have that job or did have that love or didn't have this disease and did have health. If those conditions were met, go right to the energy, go right into the essence of it, and then feel that. And I do this with everything. Like if it's a supplement, one of my friends recommended a bunch of different supplements for me. And so I just feel it right here. I put it to my solar plexus and I'll align with that space of the expansion I'm asking for, the joy, serenity, fluidity, stepping into that even more fully. And then I'll take that item and put it right next to my body and ask, what will this create more of that? Will this contribute to that expansion? And I'll immediately feel like yes, or sometimes you can get pilled for it, or you'll feel like no, just let this go. It's just gonna make you more busy. So she's saying, is that what you're trying to say? Yes, something that is a fit, like, is this practitioner gonna be a fit for me? Should I work with them? And you'll feel either like speeding up of like, it feels more anxious. I should do it, I have to do it. It's not okay if I don't do it, which is your mind trying to convince you, but it won't actually feel the resonance of that serenity you're asking for. Jen says, I'm sorry, it says, continuing your question, Wendy, can it seep through the fear and despair that can come with health limitations? Well, that's why you want to, like, in the instant elevation, we just like get the nervous system even 2% to calm down and get out of fight or flight. Just 2% release, so that you have that much more clarity. Because if you're still choosing from the same level of fear, you won't be able to be aware of the options. You'll be like, I don't know what I feel, I don't know. So you gotta like just take a few breaths, practice the instant elevation. I have video on it on the front page of the website. Actually, you can go and it'll let you download that video. Or the program itself, the instant elevation program, takes you through a much more extensive journey of integrating that so it's running in your body all the time. I let myself know what I know in my awareness. I let myself be the serenity that I am. But either way, yes, of course it can seep through if you get like 2% off that channel of fear, doom, and gloom, and just like 2% more on the channel of you don't have to go to joy, just go to curiosity. Like, wait a minute, I wonder if this is just a program I'm playing and this isn't even real for me, and maybe something higher is possible. So just curiosity will crack it open enough. Jen says, I visited my old workplace this week. I feel now I can have it all. I had no regrets. I know I've made the right choice. I feel so different being there. I love to have it all. This is awesome because Jen had this experience where she's like, I know I want to do something more expansive, but I can't leave my job because blah, 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 and had all these stories running why that's not possible for me. And I was like, hey, we're not going anywhere with, because she was kind of looking for some assistance. We're not going anywhere until you decide you're ready to dump that story and open into higher possibility. Because if life is calling you into something more expansive, you're either ready to say yes or you're not. And that's the first step. Like, yes, I'm ready to say yes. Doesn't mean I know how. Doesn't mean I have the courage to do it. But you've got to be ready that, like, yes, I am ready to choose it. And that shifted for her, like, within just a few weeks of my asking her that question. And now here she is, like, just months later in a different space. I felt that same way too when I left the emergency room. I was an emergency room doctor for years, first full-time and then kind of like part-timing it while I did a mind-body healing practice. But to actually completely release that, it was like, Now, I knew it didn't make my heart sing. I knew it wasn't my life's purpose. I knew it wasn't, you know, if you could wave a magic wand and have life be as expansive as you want, it was not on my list. But it was like, oh, I really should kind of keep it going. I really shouldn't just let it go after all this work I've done to become board certified in emergency medicine. I really should blah, 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 blah. And that was, it was almost a year of grappling with that. And when I finally released it, even before I actually let it go, when I finally released it, my business started expanding multiple times over. I felt so much lighter and so much better. Everything in my life, I mean, money, everything came more fluidly. And by the time that certification came up for expiration, I wasn't even thinking about it. I'd already decided. And then it was like a year later, and I was like, oh, I went through that, and there it was. It was not even a consequential thing. So good for you. Bravo. Melissa says, I love this. I'm determined to overcome chronic pain. The mind-body solution for pain release is a really, really beautiful, powerful tool where I walk you through that journey. It's easy. It's not a long, extensive thing, but there's some really powerful exercises to listen to the body of like, what is this pain actually trying to bring your attention to, so that you can release what's causing the pain. It's not about just, I got to release this pain, or what a lot of people do where they're trying to fight the pain and fight the disease. That isn't really going to allow you to ignite health. So see if that might resonate for you. It's at drkimd.com/pain-release. Eva says, can you just release that from your lineage by feeling into it? Essentially, yes. And this is a great question for everyone who's listening. Just my awareness of something can help it release. Because what happens if you're like, yeah, I have this lineage pattern of lack or rape or whatever, and so I'll never trust men, or I'll never have abundance, and you feel the despair that's associated with that, or the hopelessness. It's on the same channel as the problem itself. It's on the same frequency. So all you would need to do is like, oh, what would it take for me to release this fully and completely? And that may be enough that you're like no longer tuning into and strengthening the fear, hopelessness, despair channel that's keeping you linked to that energy. Or you just might need to practice it over and over and do things to continue to release it, do things to continue to come into a higher frequency. But yes, just the awareness alone is a major, major piece that, first of all, releases the stronghold it has in your system and allows you to get curious and allows you to go forward. So it doesn't necessarily happen just in that first shift in the completion it needs to. It might be a little more awakening, a little more awakening, a little more awakening. And yes, that first realization of like, oh, this is just an old lineage pattern that's been hooked in here some way, and what would it take for me to release it, can be enough for it to just like, it's like you're not hooked anymore. You're like, okay, this is still here, but I actually am in a different relationship with it, and I don't feel despair over it. Katrina, yes, 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 you are so right about it being a weight from other generations and my DNA. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll feel into things even just on a Facebook quote, a Facebook post, and be able to tune into what's actually going on. So this is really helpful. But yeah, it's just feel into the ways that you've felt the allegiance to your lineage, like the tribal connection and whatever it means. And it's like, I can't just let them go, because some ways that can like keep you, because you're part of the clan and like, whoa, we belong together. I got to carry these people with me. That's not true. And that's not going to allow you to be as free as quickly. So becoming aware of that, the deeper layers that have like kept you hooked in. Eva, I always feel so contracted about money. Like I can't create the abundance I need, not want, but need for life that I want for my family. And I don't know how to shift that limiting belief, as even when I think I choose to believe nothing new will show up in my life. Okay, so here's a little piece of like mind body magic 101. The one thing you do have absolute choice in is how you feel. Now, in my book too, we're talking about this. We talk about how you feel changes everything. Changes your chemistry, changes your brain activity, changes the neurologic signals happening throughout your whole body, changes your immune system, changes your digestion, blah, 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 blah. Changes the energies you pick up on around you, changes the ideas that occur to you. You have complete and total choice to determine how you feel. So if you buy into this idea that I'm contracted, I can't create the abundance, even just saying, I can't create the abundance I need, is that actually true? And just do the true false exercise. How does it feel when I believe it's true? How does it feel when I question it? Like, what if that wasn't even true? What if there was something higher that's possible, even though I don't know what it is yet? So the main point I wanted to make with this broadcast is, if you are willing to truly listen to your heart and all the things that it has in store for you, like, I would love this, and I would love this, and I would love that. And it's not the specifics of it, like the kind of car or what the guy looks like or the kind of job. It's the essence of that energy. It's the core of, like, what does that feel like? How does that resonate? Because that is 100% in store for you and true for you and here for you. If you were willing to listen to the calling of your heart and say yes, and it doesn't mean it all comes in 10 seconds, but just in every second, a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more yes, a little more what if, a little more tuning into this space, and look at this whole idea of, what if I did have my quote unquote cake and eat it too? This is the expansive question. The reason I'm talking about it like have your cake and eat it is because when I went through that devastating heartbreak, I realized I was making him, like the guy, be the cake. And I could just have little crumbs, but it was conditional. If he showed up, if he was, paying attention to me, if he was really there for me. But if he didn't, it's like I was not okay, because my life wasn't about, I'm the cake. And yes, I love the frosting and I love the cherries on top, and I have space for that too, and I cherish the people in my life, but I am the cake. So I feed and water and nurture myself first and foremost, and then everything else gets fed and watered and nurtured as an overflow from my fulfillment, because I'm willing to feed myself. I'm willing to know that I am the cake. And so I get to have the cake, because the cake is me being fully alive, me feeling like the awesome being that I am, me knowing that I'm a beautiful person worthy of love and belonging, me celebrating myself unconditionally, even when I do things that I'm like, I can't believe I just did that. I shared on Instagram the other day that I was driving like really, really, really far in the middle of nowhere, and I ran out of gas. And I saw the little light go on, and I was like, oh, but I'm like, well, there's a little buffer here, so maybe I have a few miles. And it was like, Lorraine says, that's brilliant. I am the cake. It was more than a few miles. It was like 30 miles to the next city. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. Anyway, I had to just tell myself, like, you know what? It's okay you did this. Because the thought went through my head, like, why didn't I fuel up before I left? I was from Santa Fe to come back to Durango. Why the heck didn't I fuel up before I left Santa Fe? What was I thinking? And it was like, no. I am not going to do that to myself. That is not going to get anyone anywhere or create anything good in my life ever. That'll actually make you less likely to fuel up the next time if this happens, not more. Berating yourself will never create more. And I was just unwilling to make myself wrong. And it was like, okay, no matter how this goes, it's not worth going into fear or feeling bad. Now, I still felt trepidation about it, but it was not misery. And so to remember, like, I celebrate myself unconditionally. I even celebrated, I love you unconditionally, when I had done this thing and not fueled up the tank with gas and then driven like miles and miles in the middle of nowhere, and almost, it's not like I would have died or anything, but, I don't know how that would have gone. No, I know how it would have gone. It would have been awesome. I probably would have met some super cool person that would have assisted me, and they would have benefited, and I would have benefited and feel even more grateful for my life. But miraculously, I did make it to a gas station. Julia says, I'm curious to know how I can best distinguish between the knowledge of needing support to gain information, challenge myself, or just see things differently and work through things, and the feeling of I need to be fixed. Oh, this is easy. So one thing is, there really isn't anything that we truly need that we don't already receive, or that we can't open to receive. And so these energies are very different. One is, I receive everything I need unconditionally, effortlessly, and fluidly with grace, joy, and ease. So the energy of that. And then the other one is, like you're saying, I'm not okay, I need to be fixed. What's the next thing? I gotta fix it, I gotta figure it out, it's not all right. Those are very different frequencies. And so if you get a little more familiar with them, they're so distinguishable. It's like, how could you confuse them? But I totally see how you can confuse them, because when we're not in clarity, this thing over here that is, I need, I'm not okay, I don't have what I need, feels like, it's like we're not clear that that's not true. It feels like it's true. And so the more awareness you practice, and the Instant Elevation program was created just for that, for this integration of, I'm aware, I know what's going on, I'm aware of what frequency I'm on, and I can immediately, instantly shift it in every moment. This will really be, the more you practice awareness, it will allow those to be even more easily distinguishable. She says, I'm having a hard time knowing that that difference is I also get the sense that I'm not meant to move through some things on my own. Okay, we're not necessarily meant to move through things on our own, because this idea of, I've got to do it on my own, can really be more about self-sufficiency, which is like a protection, like, I'm self-sufficient, I can do it on my own, so I don't need anybody. This idea that we won't have what we need, so I better not rely on something outside of me, versus I'm one with all of the world, everything outside of me. I am one with all of it. And as I connect within and allow serenity, the world will bring all the things: food, clothing, water, nourishment, shelter, beauty, relationships, love, compassion, all of the things. So it doesn't mean you can't receive from outside of you. It just means that it's always a reflection of what's going on inside of you. So if there's lack, you may have this idea, I can't really have it all, or like the cake is outside me, versus I am the cake and I love frosting. But if you're being the cake, it's already enough. It's already fulfilling. It's already amazing. Like, cake is awesome. You don't go, oh, well, that's cake, but I mean, it has no frosting, so it's really crap. And that's like kind of what we do to ourselves. Like, okay, yeah, I'm the cake, but I'm no good without the cherry on top. And that's like not even true at all. Because I love cake when it's like just cake. It's awesome, and even more nice when there's like yummy things on top of it. It's like that with everything. The lucky soul. I celebrate myself unconditionally. I'm really excited to be connecting more in Instagrams. I'm just playing around with that now. Jessica, thank you for posting the link to the Mind Body Solution for Pain Release. And some people who are just joining in, but we are going to complete, and I can be found at drkimd.com. We'll be here every Wednesday live at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. We are testing it out and playing in Instagram too, so you can find me there. But definitely in Facebook, in the Mind Body community for sure. We will be every week live. Any other questions that come up, I will check the thread. Thanks so much for the love. We have some really exciting things that are coming up. So subscribe at drkimd.com. There's a quiz about, hey, what is it going on for me that will allow the greatest opening, and also a practice of the Instant Elevation tool that will be sent to you for free that can give you some insight and awareness about, like, where am I held back, and what is this about, and what is the story I'm telling myself, or what beliefs you may have, or incomplete emotions. We are all ready to be free. We are, in case you haven't looked, in the midst of a massive, massive ascension, increase in frequency on the planet. It's affecting our bodies, it's affecting everything in our lives, it's affecting our kids, all of our relationships, and we either learn to flow with this and allow that expansion in, or the pain of what we're holding is gonna like kick us in the butt. It's like, oh no, this hurts so bad. So what would it take for me to learn to let go and be fluid, so that through this ascension we're in, I experience it as joy. Like Randy could experience, like, oh, that job fell away. That's awesome. I wonder what else is possible. All right, sharing lots of love with all of you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.